Morning fish keepers, Cam here from thefishroom.co.nz. We've done it. Congratulations. Friday. Woo! Got those Friday feels, that's for sure today. Oh, yeah, coffee is good. It's not actually true. I don't have those Friday feels. I'm just trying to make me have those Friday feels because I like Friday and I really want a good Friday. So we'll see how we go. I've been here for far too many hours already today, so I had far too much caffeine. So I'm a little anyway. Right, let's bring on John. Good morning. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. You had a good week?
Yes, it's been busy this week.
Yeah.
Been back to writing a few more blogs, and yeah, it's been keeping me busy. Looking forward to the weekend, though.
Yeah, nice one. Still another day away for you, though, isn't it?
Yeah. My weekend starts now, though.
Yeah.
That has been for a while.
Does it frustrate you a little bit that it's Friday here and you get to talk about all good things in Fridays and weekend, but you've still got another day to go?
Well, if it was early on in the day, then and I still had the full Thursday to work, then yeah. But it's evening, so I wake up in the morning and I get to experience everything that you're experiencing now. So it's not too bad.
Very cool. All right, so we don't have too much on the major agenda today. When I say the major agenda, is what I've written in my book. Once we've got through that, we're gonna crack into a topic that we're going to talk about today, which is going to be aquatic plants because they are a fun time. Good morning, Brian. How you doing? Yeah, good to see you've got your coffee as well. So first and foremost, we have some more fish released today or the other day, available on the website and in the shop. So we've had some emerald iris bora come through. Emerald iris bora are very, very cool. They've been out of stock from the supplier for quite some time. Finally saw them pop back up, so I grabbed them because I think they're awesome little fish. And also had some gold barbs come through, and for the first time we've got some Siamese algae eaters in as well. We've had a lot of people asking for them, so I thought I'd bite the bullet and get some of them in. So happy days for the new fish. Good morning, Rebecca and Rochelle. Mystery babies are looking like cherry barbs. Nice, cool. Have you got more than one, or is it just that single one fry you've found in your tank?
It's between 3 to 5, I think she said.
Oh, I thought it might have been 3 to 5 weeks. But yeah, that makes sense. 3 to 5 fry. Cool. Awesome. Well done. We've got some new fish that came in this week, which we're still holding back for a little bit. We got some guppies. Unfortunately, a vast majority of them have deceased themselves over the first 2 days of having them. Also got some more forktail rainbows, and they did the same thing as well. So we've got to have very limited numbers of them coming through, unfortunately. So I'm going to need to stabilize them over the next probably longer than 2 weeks because of the rate that they're dropping off. That'll probably be a 3 or 4 week one to make sure everything's okay. We've got some dwarf pea puffers in, which we haven't had for a while. They are incredibly chunky. They are looking incredibly healthy. And I cannot wait to make them available to you because they are looking like some of the nicest pea puffers I've seen come in for a very, very long time. Yeah. They're definitely not that weird looking things. They are puffed up. They are beautiful looking at the moment. So
they've got nice spots on them.
Yeah, they're
dark markings.
Yep, blown away about how nice they're looking. So there'll be some very, very happy people when they get them into their tanks when they come through. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So that's what it is as far as the new fish that have come in. I was down in Christchurch for a day earlier this week. Left on Tuesday afternoon, was back on Wednesday evening. I went down to Aqua House and picked up a few bits and pieces for stock. And for a few little things for me to sample out and try. So because we were talking about the pea puffers, we can probably talk about this first. So I cracked open a tropical softline Asia container because that's probably not going to show up. They look like little vibrobite type things, but they're soft, which I thought was pretty cool. And I was aware of people feeding vibrobites to pea puffers, so I thought we'd give these a wee go and see if the puffers would take them. Unfortunately, they weren't interested whatsoever, but it was worth a try. So I'll give them another couple of goes over the next week or so and see if they go anywhere with that. But I predominantly opened that one to start with because of that reason, as part of my trialing. So I fed them out to some of the betters in the shop. They took it perfectly straight away, no issues. They loved it. into the blackwater display tank with the cherry barbs, the pearl gouramis, and that kind of stuff. They devoured it straight away, no issues, no dramas. So that's a good start for that. I'm really liking how soft it is. It's like the Vitalis, which is quite a nice little. Have you played with Vitalis?
No, actually, no. What one?
The Rangers Vitalis, that's the brand. It's a really soft pellet, very similar to this. Like it clumps up together. It's so soft. There's lots of moisture in it.
I've heard about it, but it's not something that I've ever had. I've always just stuck with fish science, to be honest. But I've had my reasons for that.
It was readily available in New Zealand, but then it's just disappeared for the majority of us off the market, which is unfortunate because I really liked it. I thought it was really good. Cool. I'm going to read that and we'll continue on.
Yeah.
Probably good they won't eat them as they might need a more frequent, harder diet to eat. But I have found... Why don't we just bring this up? Found a few studies on the hardness of the diet affects fish morphology. Do you mean hardness of what they are eating in the sense of crunch factor? I guess that's a way of putting it. Yeah, I think that's why I'm putting it. I was hoping that they'd be good as an alternative. Sometimes people struggle to potentially have enough snails or brine shrimp available when they've got their puffers. Things can happen, crashes can occur. But if there's a little bit of supplemental work with some pre-prepared stuff, that if some disaster happens and a crash comes along, then at least they're still conditioned to be able to take the odd pellet or whatever you want to call those stick things to as an alternative.
I've been feeding my pea puffers nothing but live bloodworm for a week now. Just every day, and the colour on them's transformed completely. Like they went from being quite dull to that's why I was asking about the markings, because they really proper black and yellow, like some of the larger puffers that you see.
Cool.
Yeah, so it looks like they'll be getting a lot more bloodworm. So there's obviously a direct.
Something in there.
Feed them does have an influence on how they look as well.
I predominantly feed mine brine shrimp. Readily available, easy to hatch, continues to be on the floor of what we feed, and they go really well on that. And then when the Daphnia was going crazy, they're getting Daphnia microworms and things like that as well. But like I said, I knew a lot of people have managed to get them onto Vibrobites as an alternative and stick type stuff. So that was where the fingers were crossed. I'm going to try and get them onto some frozen stuff before we move them on, see if they take any of the frozen bloodworm.
I've had them on this before.
Yeah.
They do take it, but not when it hits the ground, only when it's falling if they're quick enough.
Yeah. And I think that's where the mindset with this stuff is, because it floats not just straight down, it kind of does weird little things on the way through.
Yeah. It simulates live food, I'd imagine.
Yeah, light density, I guess. So diet affects morphology. Looks interesting about this feed. Yeah, that makes sense. For a layman person like us, that does make sense to an extent. So picked up them, trying them. So I'm trying a few of the various tropical stuff. Also got the gel formula to try, which I'm curiously interested about. Seems like a similar Rapashi or something similar to that. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Ingredients breakdown's not amazing, but it's not terrible, if that makes sense. So I'm just curious to how that goes. And we've got some of the tropical flakes that we'll be putting on the website hopefully today. Some probiotic food as well, which I've never played around with, and I don't really know the science behind it, but I thought it'd be worth taking on. Then I can grab a container or two off the shelf and trial them at the same time. And I think we might have got some algae tabs or something similar as well. So just the baseline stuff to start with, and then we'll move through and possibly get a few more on the line. From all accounts, I've spoken to a lot of people, it's a relatively good food from over in Europe. It seems to have a bit of an underground scene to it, so to speak. Like, not a lot of people talk about it, but quite a few people use it, if that makes sense. Take that whatever which way you will after we had our conversation this morning about it. So I might be reading it the wrong way, but we'll see how we go. So that's one thing I picked up from them. And also picked up Aquil ear pumps. These are quiet. These are ridiculously quiet. So maybe 2 years ago, the Tetra Whisper ear pumps were here in New Zealand, and they were by far the quietest ear pumps available on the NZ market. Unfortunately, they took them off the market, but these are now here. These would rival that, if not more quiet. So if you're looking for a quiet ear pump, these things are absolutely phenomenal. I really like these. I'm a big fan of them.
Nothing worse than a noisy pump.
Yeah, it frustrates the absolute heck out of me. Like, it's bad enough hearing the bubbles breaking the water. That drives me insane as well. But to hear the ear pump on top of that is just something. So I think if you've got ear pumps in living spaces, the quieter you can get them, the better they are. And these Aquils, am I saying that right? Aquil?
Aquil, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. They're phenomenally good. So they've been designed with science. Oh, they're far quieter than Eheims. They're far quieter than Eheims. They're really, really good units. So I'm pretty happy to have these here and about. So they're already on the website. They're ready to rock and roll. But yeah, they're lovely and quiet. They're a great unit. There's a bigger one than this, which is, for the size that it is, almost silent. It's phenomenally good. So yeah. So I'm happy with that. But we'll continue to look through some of the other products that they've got. Canister filters. The heaters really interested me. They're almost like a black plastic sort of heater with a dial on the front as opposed to the top.
Oh, I've got one of them. They're actually really good.
Cool. I liked the idea of them for bigger fish. Yes, yeah. For bigger fish like Oscars and whatnot, they just seem that little bit safer. So I'll
definitely
potentially take them on in the next couple of months as well. So just trialing a few bits and pieces before we go too hard into the range. So
it's a good range. There's a lot of different products and different ways of doing things as well, which is good to see.
Yeah. So I believe that Aqua House are looking at bringing in more bits and pieces as well. So as they continue to bring more things in, and I'll take a few things on and trial a few things, and we'll deal with that. Flies in the fish room, get some of the horrible fly tape stuff. Right, so someone's just asked, can you touch the plants at Aqua House? So they've got a wine fridge that works really well, and so you just open it up and pull it out, and you can find out what you want. So we also bought from them some Tropica tissue culture plants. So these are relatively new to me. I know they're not new to the people around the world, but these are a fairly new product in New Zealand. They've only been here for about a month or 6 weeks or something like that. So it's really exciting that we have the opportunity to not only have these in New Zealand, but also I've had the opportunity to bring these on board and sell them. So I'm really happy with that opportunity. So we're going to crack one open while we're here, because I haven't opened one yet. And I bought this particular species of plant for me to put in the shop anyway. So I'm going to open this one up. But before we do that, have a really quick chat about these. So where's my camera? There it is. So it's a relatively full pot of plants there. So we're retailing these at $30 a pop. And so comparatively, we sell single crypts at $15 a go for one plant. So this one here is $30. And if you can, I don't know if we can have a shot very well on the camera, but there's probably 15 different plants in here. So as far as value buying goes, these are incredibly good, and that goes with all of them. That wasn't just a single one-off cup that I grabbed. All of them have multiple plants in each of the things. So so they're really good buying when it comes to that. Definitely getting value for money. Yes, I'm keeping them in the fridge. So I'm having them on display during the day and then chucking them back in the fridge overnight. So yeah, they're definitely being kept in the fridge. So we'll just open up this Anubias while we're here. I probably should have bought myself put a towel beside my thing. So from this pot, there is 3 decent sized chunks. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to show this off. So
good little chunks, actually.
3 decent chunks out of that. So when we sell the Anubias that we buy from our supplier, we sell it for $20 a piece. And that there is about the same sort of size rhizome as what you'd get, normally with 2 to 4 leaves. So for that, it's $20. And so what we're getting here is 3 times the amount for, I think these ones are a little bit more expensive. They would have been closer to $40, but you're getting more value for money in a pot than what you would be getting from the standard stuff. And I dare say if you wanted to, you could probably still cut these up a little bit more and get a little bit more spread out of them. Mm-hmm. So I think as far as value buying goes, these are going to be game changers for us hobbyists here, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah. One of the good things about doing it as well through in vitro plants is obviously they come completely pest-free because they've been grown within an enclosed environment. So you can just get straight to it. You don't need to worry about snails or anything.
Yep. It says on the packet, clean aquarium plants, no algae, no pests, no snails. So for the people that worry about that, which I know there is plenty of people that do, this is definitely an alternative option for you there. Mm-hmm. So today's topic we're going to talk about is aquatic plants and aquarium plants. Something that I do like. I enjoy growing plants. So something that I know that John knows quite a bit about as well. So I thought it segued pretty well for us to have taken on these tropical plants to be able to talk about that. So I know John we banner up before saying what are in vitro plants. Again, this is the first time I've played around with them. So I'm a little bit, I don't want to say naive, but I'm a little bit uneducated when it comes to it. So we'll let John work through what in vitro plants are, how they've come about, and what they are, basically.
Yeah, basically, I mean, in vitro plants are plants grown in labs. Small cuttings or tissue cultures are taken from a mother plant and then placed in gel or like a jelly, which is, there's something that helps them grow. I can't remember what it is, but they basically grow within this tiny little pot. Terrestrially, that's the stuff. So they've got full access to air, but because of the way they're grown, when you put them in your aquarium, they adapt extremely well and very quick, and they grow like the same plants that we normally have. They don't grow any different. You don't do anything any different, but what you're getting is baby plants, so to speak, that are ready just to attach to, like with the Anubias, you would attach them straight onto a rock or wood. They are smaller, so they do take a bit more time, obviously. You're not getting a fully grown plant, but when you're looking to kind of create a long-standing aquascape, it gives you the time, and there's one being smaller, they're easier to work with as well. So that was one of the things I liked the most about it, is the fact that they're smaller, a lot easier to work with.
So they're obviously grown in laboratory conditions. I'm not sure if the people watching or not, but I've definitely watched a few videos of like the Tropica factory tours and all that kind of stuff. Because they're grown in such basically pristine, clean conditions, when they transition into aquarium, do you know of any issues that arise? Do they melt? Is there no transition period? Are they good to go? How does that work compared to like coming from hobbyist tank to hobbyist tank kind of thing?
There's not any transition period.
Okay.
They're already conditioned for aquarium growth.
Okay. Do you know if the crypts go through any melting process or like that, or are they fine as well? Do you know anything like that?
They're the same.
Yeah, they're good.
They're all good. That's one of the amazing things about it. Because when you get like normal crypts, when not in vitro, they're big and they do have to go in. But these plants are small and they're still forming. So when you put them in there, they form properly for the first time underwater.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
We've had a quick question here. Will you be doing a live with Aqua House to get the views on their products and what Christchurch and New Zealand can expect in regards to what they're bringing into the country? I am planning on it. If they are open to having that conversation, I'm more than happy to have them on. It's on my list of things to send them an email over the next couple of days and see if they are keen. So yeah, more than happy to have them on if they're willing to jump on screen with us and talk about it. I think it's probably a good thing for my learning and everyone else's learning as well, to have the people that are bringing things in, and especially new products that are, I don't want to say the word revolutionary, but are definitely new to New Zealand, and the knowledge is not quite as strong when it comes to it. So it's definitely in the mind, and the question will be asked if they're willing to come on and have a wee chat with us. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, they seem pretty welcoming, and they've definitely been very open to all the questions that I've had to them towards the products that they're bringing in and that kind of stuff. So as long as they're not camera shy, which is often the limiter for people, then we should be good to go.
Yeah. I think you'll definitely want to come on once they've got their aquascape gallery set up.
That'll be yeah, so definitely beginning. I think they have three tanks set up when I was there. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The two that were fully established and set up were looking absolutely phenomenal, like stunning. There was a small little fluval flex, and there was one of their tanks, one of the Viv tanks that they had in the corner as well, which was looking incredibly nice. And they've just set up a slightly bigger one only a couple of weeks earlier, so the plants weren't quite bedded in, but you could see that the growth was coming along nicely. They were looking really, really nice. So I think there's some more plans for a few more tanks hanging around in there. So reading between the lines, I think there's some pretty exciting stuff happening from that company, and it's really cool that there's someone in New Zealand just pushing the boundaries and doing some different stuff. So that's exciting.
Yeah. It's always good.
Aquascaping kits. Do you mean like aquarium light on a stand type kit, or
tools like scissors and
tool kit? Yeah, I definitely had a look at all of the aquariums there. There was some very, very nice ones. One of the ones that I did like, I can't remember what brand it was, but it was quite large. But it looked like that the black, most tanks had this black trim around the outside, which is plastic. I thought it was like a plastic trim to hold the canopy and the lid on it, but when I got closer, it was actually the glass. So it was clear glass, and it had a bit of a plastic. The words are eluding me. It wasn't plastic, it was a black glass bracing glued on the inside of it. So it made it look like it was like the normal rim, but it was full aquarium, and then the canopy hood that sat on top of it was quite short. So it was nice. It looked really, really good. Yeah. I have looked at some of the stones. They came up here 6 or 8 weeks ago or something like that, and they bought a whole bunch of stones and some substrate and that kind of stuff. So I've had a really good look at some of that stuff. Eventually, we'll probably take that on. Aquascaping stuff isn't really where we're positioning ourselves, so I don't want to get too heavy on lots of hardscape and things like that. But I'm aware that I have to carry some hardscapes and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, I don't want to get too heavy on having 50 tons of different rocks here, because it's not kind of where we're positioning ourselves. But equally, we need to have some rock here for people that want to put rocks and wood and stuff like that into the aquarium. So yeah. Cool. All right. So you got some more questions there, Mr. John?
Yes. Nice and simple, this one. What is your favourite aquatic plant, Cam?
Cool. Cryptocoryne is definitely my favorite family of plants. I'm a massive fan of them. I think Aphanis is a really nice crypt. I like that it grows quite low. I like that it's got a purple undertone as well as an olive over the top of it, and that it works quite well as a foreground plant. It doesn't stay like carpet low, but it doesn't get ginormous. Like we're only sort of talking about this much over the substrate. So it's also really good for small fish to hide about and dart in and stuff like that. So that'd be definitely in there. Sunset Polysperma is one that I like. I'm not a massive stem plant fan, but that is definitely one that I really, really like. I love the pink that comes through it under good conditions, and then it contrasts really well with the white stems that run through the leaf. I think you might know it as the Polysperma rosenvig. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we can call it rosenvig because it's trademarked, or maybe Sunset's trademarked. I can't remember now. It's one name we can't call it because it's trademarked. But yeah, I do really like that particular plant. I think it's really beautiful. A plant that we can't get here that I really, really like is the Cryptocoryne. I think it's called Cordata rosenvig. Again, it's got big pink coloration on it and white stems on it, and I think that's absolutely beautiful. But it's definitely not in New Zealand, unfortunately. But it's a beautiful plant. I would pay a lot of money if that was available on a tissue culture from Tropica. I'd be more than happy to pay some decent money to get a few of them in my possession for sure.
Yeah, you do get a lot of them come through in the tissue cultures.
Yeah, it's just going to depend on what is allowed and what's not allowed for them to be bringing, and that's my understanding. And don't want to talk out of turn, because I don't know the rules and regulations, so I'll let them do what they're going to do, and let's see what magic they can bring for us, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, those, they're definitely up there. I know it sounds like I have a lot of favourite plants while we're talking like this. I like the Echinodorus malthai, also known as a major sword, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's got the longer green leaves, but they're ruffled. It's also known as a ruffle sword. I like the texture of the way that those leaves are wavy going up. I think that's really cool.
Probably the Madagascar lace plant. Have you seen that?
I've seen it. I don't believe there is any in New Zealand anymore.
Right.
Funny story. There was one in Nelson where I live. Dude closed down his fish room. Someone bought all the stuff, all the equipment in the fish room, including the tank and the substrate that it came with. And then they decided to close up their fish room, and Cam decided to pay a stupid amount of money for one aquarium that had the substrate that still had the Madagascar lace substrate in there, fingers crossing that it had gone dormant and it was going to come back. It was a ridiculous amount of money, and I had to buy a whole lot of other stuff just so I could buy this one tank. So they pretty much had me buy whatever position they wanted to have me buy, but I was like, yeah, sweet, take my money, fingers crossed it's still there. 2 or 3 years down the track, nothing popped up. So, I bought a really expensive aquarium and a really expensive bunch of substrate, but I tried.
Never mind. It's not one you get that common over here either, to be honest. You don't see that often.
Yeah. What other ones? I like needleleaf Java fern. I think it's really versatile, and I think it's far nicer plant than the broadleaf Java fern. I'm really fond of my Anubias gold. That's not particularly common over here. Same sort of growth size as just your standard Anubias nana, but the leaves are more of a lime, almost that kind of, I don't know, I'm sure it doesn't show it up. More of a lime color as opposed to the dark green. I think that's really nice. I've got some out the back I've had for I don't know how many years now. I've cut pieces off it and sent it around the country to various people. So I've never sort of had it grow any bigger than this, because when it gets a bit bigger, I cut a few pieces off and send it around to people. So I'm going to put some of that into one of the display tanks, and then once I've got it established in 2 tanks, when it gets a bit bigger, I'm going to cut another piece off and try and grow it immersed and try and get it growing a bit faster, because it is incredibly slow growing. Like Anubias is slow growing, but this is just pulling teeth type slow, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you guys get the Anubias Nana Pinto, which is the one with the white speckle through it?
No, that's not here.
That's one of my favourite ones.
Yeah, I can imagine it'd be quite nice.
Yeah,
I saw the Anubias chili, which is another really small one, which I thought would be quite cool too. And the Anubias snow's not here. Some of the cool stuff's not here, but we do have a decent amount of Anubias here. I think there's sort of 8 to 10 different species of different sorts. And I'm sure there's some other bits and pieces that are tucked around in tanks like Gigantica and stuff like that. That definitely was here, so they'll be tucked around someone's tank somewhere.
Yeah, people have it somewhere.
Yeah, they'll be there somewhere. There'll be a few of them like that. So yeah. Another question from the floor. Oh, far away. Or should we read the question?
No, go for it. We'll read the question first. Rochelle saying, what are both your most unseen fish you own? You question if it's still alive sometimes. It's definitely plecos.
Yeah. I've got a group that I picked up about 3 months ago that I haven't seen since I put them in a tank. Piraticola of some sort. No, maybe I'm thinking different words here. I can't remember what they're called now. They're not particularly common, and I can't remember the old number off the top of my head, but I haven't seen them since I had them in the quarantine tanks for about a month, made sure everything was good to go, and then put them into one of the tanks out the back, and I haven't seen them since. I know they're still in there because there's a lot of waste and lots of sawdust and all that kind of stuff being chewed through and all that kind of stuff. I know they're still in there. I just haven't seen them from that day. Yeah,
I've got a group of about 6 coolie loaches in this tank here. And the only reason I know they're still here is because when I walk into the room in the morning and the light's out, you can just see a crazy flutter. Just mad activity, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But one of them's actually really, really, really chunky. I remember, it's probably as thick as a pen.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Horseface loaches are a little bit like that as well. They do a bit of digging and burying, and if they don't want to be seen, they won't be seen. Cool.
Back to the plant questions. I was going to ask you, in your opinion, what is the best plant for beginners? Somebody that's just looking to start adding live plants to their aquarium.
Cool. For the best part, I tell people to avoid stem plants. There's a bit of a caveat with that. Ambulia, blue hydrophilia, polysperma, generally polysperma green, but sunset's not too bad, are the 3 that I think are almost bulletproof for beginners as well. You can probably put mouse ears in there as well, but I don't really consider them a stem plant. But those are the 3 as far as stem plants go, I think are good for beginners. But for the best part, I try and encourage people to avoid stem plants for beginning. Yeah. Because far too often they just don't work for people. They're more demanding than what people think, or they reach the top, then they begin to rot and they die off, and they need more nutrients. It's just a world of work with them. Yeah. So I try and encourage people to go with, believe it or not, cryptocorynes. I think they're almost bulletproof, and they're a fantastic plant to start with. They take a little bit of time to get established, and they take a bit of time to begin growing. But when they do, they fill tanks really well. So that's normally my first option. Normally Wenditai, Petchii, or Balance, depending on what part of your tank you're trying to fill up. But I think they're really, really good options for beginners. Anubias, another good option, just a bit more expensive. And because they're a bit slower, sometimes they can cause a few issues with algae and stuff like that, or getting algae. And they because they take a bit of time, people get a little more impatient with them. But that's an option. Java fern is a very similar thing, almost bulletproof to kill, but they are a little bit harder to keep thriving, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
You could really neglect them and they stay alive, but they don't show their full beauty and their full force if you're not quite giving them what they want, but they don't die in the process.
Yeah, they just kind of stop growing.
Yeah. Dwarf Sagittarius is another pretty good one. Can take a bit to get them established. Once they're established, they go gangbusters. They're great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites is the Dwarf Sag.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Twisted Veil is another one. The one thing I don't like recommending twisted valve for is because the likes of Excel and Fix will kill them off, and often people have issues with algae, and they're trying to get rid of the algae, and they're going with the Fix or the Excel, and that kills the valve and can kill sage as well. So that's one of the reasons why I try not to encourage valve too often. If it wasn't for that, they would be an absolutely phenomenal plant. Green tiger lotus, red tiger lotus, almost bulletproof as well. They do go through dormant stages where they drop back a little bit. But again, once they're established, almost bulletproof. On that note, we'll have some red tiger lotus available on the website by the end of the day.
Nice.
Just what I remember. Sword plants can go pretty well as long as you are a little bit picky with what you go with. Your standard Amazon swords are a good option. Swords that have a bit of red in them, not such a good option, not for beginners at least. And swords, because they're such massive root feeders, they do need a really decent deep substrate for them to go really well. But that's kind of where I go with when it comes to beginner plants. So we sell what's basically called a Lucky Dip plant pack. They're probably our best-selling plant that we have. And so I always build them up with really hardy stems, your polyspermas, ambulias, blue hydrophilia, cryptocorynes, anubiases or Java ferns, and a sword plant. So the way that I'm building them is always, I don't want people's plants that they're getting to be out of the reach of being successful with them. If they're picking a Lucky Dip, I want them to be as successful as they potentially can. So I'm always trying to put the hardier species, the easier species into that with them. So just building on that pretty much here. So good morning, Helen. So that's was a very long-winded way for what I think the best plants for beginners are, but anything like that is normally pretty good.
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to sturdiness.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that Anubias Chili Mini isn't here because otherwise I'd be $70 Canadian less in my pocket. How to use root tabs? So it depends on which root tab you are using. I really like the JBL Kugelin. I don't think that's the way you pronounce it. They're more of a clay ball substitute. I really love using them when it comes to sword plants and when it comes to cryptocorynes, because you poke them underneath it and the roots sort of grow around it.
They last for quite a while as well, don't they?
Yeah, so they say on the packet 9 months, but I've had 15, 16 months out of a root ball under really big swords. So problem with them is they're quite large. You've got a good substrate. So
I was going to say you need quite a deep substrate for them. Yeah,
compared to some of the other ones, which are more flat tablets. So
do those root tabs or root balls differ from like the capsules that you would get?
Yeah, so I was basically going to talk on then of root tabs, the ones that I'm familiar with and have used, APIs, CChems, JBLs, and the Sierra ones, compared to the capsules, which come in like the Tua Aquarius range. So I believe the capsule ones are a little bit different, and for the best part, I believe they're designed to work with aqua soil. Right. And from my understanding, I might be wrong. I'm not an aquascaper, and I haven't really dug too deep into that world. That the capsules dissolve and then release fertilizers into the substrate for the substrate to remineralize to then feed the plants. Whereas the root tabs, like your JBLs and your Sierras and whatnot, they go into like an inert sand, for example, and then the plants gravitate to that and they draw their nutrients directly from the tab or directly from the capsule. From the ball, sorry. Yeah. So that's my understanding of how the little capsules go with aqua soil to the tabs and the balls that go with that are a nutrient.
Can they grow around them?
Whatever you want to call it,
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got to be careful to make sure you do plant them or poke them well underneath. I put some Sierra ones into. I've got a small little nano tank on one of the shelves here with a few minnows in it. I'm growing some dwarf sage in it. But I didn't poke it deep enough, and then when I came in the morning, It was this pile of green stuff that had made its way to the top of the substrate. So
Lovely.
I'm expecting some sort of an algae breakout in the next little while because it was basically free nutrients floating through that tank. So we'll see how we go.
So would you recommend putting like root tabs, either the capsules or the ball, in the substrate first before you fill the tank right at the start, or is it easy enough just to put them in once you've got a tank full?
It's easy enough to put them in when you've got your tank full. If you know your layout of your tank and you know where you're going to put your plants and when you're putting your substrate in, you can easily put the balls in there while you're doing that. Or if you're going through a bit of a dry start method, and so you've already placed your plants in there, you can put them in accordingly where you go. But equally, if you filled your tank up, you then put your plants and you know where they are, you can poke them in and around after that. So like the happy-go-lucky tank that we're setting up at the moment, I'm putting plants in as I'm ready to put them in. There's no dumping them all in one go type situation.
Yeah.
So although I'm using JBL Monado and Aquabasis, I'm not going to need to put the root balls underneath it because the Monado does what it needs to do. But I'd be quite happy to, if I wasn't using that, I've got my patch of dwarf sage. That's where it's going, root tabs in there. I've got my sword plant over there, root tabs under that with no major issues at all either. So
yeah. Would you say there's certain plants that root tabs are essential for compared to others? Like, I know, like your bigger plants, like Amazon swords and things, root tabs are vital for them because they've got big root balls. But would you use them in all your tanks, or only when you've got certain plants in them?
If I don't have like a soil or a dirt base, or you know what I mean, when I'm going with that as a substrate, absolutely. If I'm just using an inert sand or a river sand or something like that, absolutely. For crypts and sword plants, totally for sure. Generally speaking, stem plants draw from the water, so they don't often need them.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt to have them poked in your little forest of ambulia, but it's probably not overly necessary because they're drawing from the water column. And obviously things like Java Fern and Nubius, you can't really poke a root ball under them, so there's no need for them. Green Tiger Lotus, they go absolutely crazy with a root ball poked under it. But if your substrate's rich enough and thick enough, often those plants don't need it. If the tank's been set up for a couple of years, some of the nutrients might begin to be totally absorbed, or significant of it. You can poke a few balls under them after the fact to keep them going. So yeah.
Okay. I've not got any more main questions, but would you, when you're considering setting up an aquarium, I'll just take this question down actually because it might confuse us later. When you're planning to set up an aquarium and you're going for the all-round kind of package, so to speak, and you pick fish, do you pick plants according to the fish, or do you just pick plants that you know that you can look after and you know that'll look nice, or do you try and pick plants that will suit the fish for cover reasons or for breeding purposes or whatever?
Yeah. So I try and set up all my aquariums as an area aquarium. I think that's I can't remember who one of our guests mentioned an area style aquarium. So basically, I want to set up a tank with fish and plants from the Amazon. So then I research what fish and plants go from the Amazon. I want to set up a tank for fish and plants from Southeast Asia. So I base it that way, as opposed to kind of mixing and matching everything accordingly for what it is. That being said, the happy-go-lucky tank that I'm doing at the moment is an absolute mix match. It is a full community tank of various plants from various regions and various fish from various regions. But generally speaking, I try to set it up as this is the area of the world that I'm trying to replicate.
Yeah, so like a loose biotope effect.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit too tight for us to be able to have proper biotopes for the best parts here in New Zealand. But yeah, it's just try and base it on areas of the world and that kind of stuff. So doing a African riverway, put a lot of Anubias in there with some Congo tetras and that kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Like the barb tank and that sort of stuff. Yeah, habitat aquariums, that's a good option as well. Yeah.
I like ecosystem aquariums.
Yeah. Natural aquariums are another one that I sort of try to. Yeah, I think all of these definitions all kind of mean are very similar to the same sort of thing. But it's a tough one because there's no real name for it, but we all kind of know what we're trying to do or what we're trying to achieve. Yeah. With the root tabs, is it better to put the hole in the substrate or break it down? Put the whole thing in. Just put it underneath. If in the likes of the JBL balls, they're quite big, you can cut them in half and put 2 half balls to make them stretch a bit further. But for the best part, you just put them close, put them in full side by side, pretty much. So yeah. So one thing that I haven't properly played with, that I'm looking for a spot in the shop to try, is a proper dirted tank. It's not. I've played with or used the Dalton's Aquadirt, Pondirt. I can't quite remember what it's called. So I've used that before, capped with sand. So that's like a clay type of substrate. Grows like nobody's business. It is incredibly good for that. Sagittarius grows, yep. So it grows really well for that. So I've used that a couple of times, but I've never done a proper dirted tank. So I'm going to have a wee fiddle around with one of them soon. I just need to find a spot in the shop to be able to put another tank.
A few years back, I used an aqua, like plant soil or dirt or something like that, but it was from Tropica. I've not been able to find it again. And I remember my dwarf sag, just was on fire, and I've never been able to get that success again. I just wish I could find that same soil.
Yeah,
it's really, really good, but it's a nightmare when you try and tamper with it.
Yeah, you've got to be really, really strict on once it's planted, it's planted. I'm not pulling it up because then you're in for a world of pain when it comes to algae. So I pulled up a few plants in that, and then I don't know, about 3 months later, all I had was hair algae everywhere just from their nutrient removal from it. So that was a lesson learned. My Colombian tetras loved spawning in that because of all the algae that was there, and they were producing good numbers. But definitely noted not to do that. So I've actually got a guest lined up for the next few weeks. We're just trying to make a time slot work really well for him. He loves growing plants in dirted tanks. That's his jive. So he's a local New Zealand hobbyist, which is really cool. I've spent, I don't know, countless hours speaking to him about growing plants and things like that. So, I'm really looking forward to that. He's got lots of opinions and thoughts and ideas when it comes to growing plants, and he's very, very successful. Some of his tanks are absolutely phenomenal. So that'll be a fun time if we can secure a time. He works on Friday morning, so we've got to make it work on either a public holiday or a sick day for him. So we'll just see how we go. Yeah. How's Cam done a dirty tank? And I haven't. I just haven't. It's just
Cam's a dirty boy.
Yeah, just one of those things that eluded me so far in my fish keeping time. So we'll get there.
Here's a comment from Red Laser about Aquel. We spoke about that earlier on today.
A year and a half experience using the glass heat. Cool. Yeah, I've not, from what I've read and what I've found, no one's been overly disappointed in any real major points of them. So that's a positive thing. I'm always just a little bit dubious of particularly heaters, but just taking on new products without too much of my own time or speaking to enough people that have used them before to go, yep, cool, this works fine. This is a good idea, sort of thing. Not all the time. There's some things you just go, yep, cool, I'm going to give it a go. And in Cameron's words, you only live once, so give it a nudge and give it a crack and see how you go. But I've also found that it's bit me on the butt before, just going, yep, we'll give this a go. And then 3 years down the track, I haven't sold a single unit. Nobody wants it. So, yeah, it just is what it is sometimes.
Yeah. I've never had any complaints with the stuff that I've got, and the heaters are really robust as well. The flat ones, they're really good. I know you guys don't get shrimps, but when you're dealing with a small 20 or 30 litre tank, when space is a premium, having something that's flat that goes against the back can really make a difference. Especially
I also thought they would work pretty well on like the nano cube type tank. So they've got the inbuilt filtration. You can sort of tuck beside or tuck in kind of thing. Being that they're just not that standard round, they are a flat bar. I thought that would work pretty well in lots of situations. So that was definitely something that tickled my fancy, and the way the display worked. And I think one of them just had a simple push button to increase the temperature or decrease the temperature, which one side looks really good, two side might be something you didn't go wrong. So I was a little bit catch on that. But for the best part, the products that I've looked into and looked at, I thought they're all pretty good. So you just slowly but surely take them on, I think, as the time allows and that kind of stuff. So
well, every fish shop in the country's got them over here.
Yeah, okay, that's a good start.
Yeah, I think they're actually Polish based.
Yeah, made in Poland.
Yeah.
You want me to sing you a Christmas carol, eh? That's dedication. The unfortunate thing about me not having them done by Christmas is I've had this big tank out the back to do frontosa with for I don't know how many months now. I've only just pulled it apart, so sometimes things take far too long around this place, but we'll see how we go. I am a step ahead because I've already got a stand for it. I just don't know where I'm going to put it. I'm pretty limited in what space I've got left in the shop that can handle something on it before we're getting towards behind my desk type of scenario, which I don't really want to do either. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah,
might just take some stock shelves out and put aquariums in it and only have one shelf of.
Well, I'm about to get a unit to go over here.
Cool.
And I'm going to put a terrarium that's going to it's about 3 foot high.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm going to put that over there. So that'll be different, something nice to look at instead of bare wall.
Frogs?
I think I'm going to go with crabs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Vampire crabs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
What do they like to feed?
Okay, I think you can feed them wingless fruit flies.
Oh, yeah.
I think. I'm not sure. I've still got to research about them, but
that's front runner for the time being.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cool. That was the reason I bought the terrarium last year for them.
Yeah.
But by the time I got back, I just lost interest in it.
Is it just me, or is there fish keepers in this hobby that will buy everything and have everything set up within the next day, and there's other people like me that'll buy something and 3 years down the track they'll finish it?
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I went in at the fish shop to buy food or something, or plants or something, and I seen that and I'm like, I want that setup. So I bought everything I needed for the setup, walked out the shop, and it sat in my office, my old office, for months, unboxed.
Yeah.
At one point, I just put bugs from the garden in it just to have something there.
A little bit like me with this ink bird that keeps looking at me every time we do these videos because I haven't moved it for 6 months now.
Yeah.
Just eventually I'll do something with it.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I'll do something with it eventually.
Cool. I know.
Oh well, that's pretty much it. Happy to continue the conversation if people want to continue. Yeah, I saw that. I was trying to ignore that. Having a container of Anubias beside me and a packet of glue beside me, it's probably worth talking about ways to attach epiphytes to wood and rocks.
Yeah.
I personally like the glue method, whether it's flourish glue or whether it's a super glue. If you're using the super glue, just find a gel as opposed to a liquid because the liquid's a real pain. So I prefer the glue method. I prefer that because my fingers are like sausages and they don't work tying little bits of cotton and that kind of stuff onto stuff. Other people will tie cotton around their Java ferns, Anubias or whatever, and then tie that to the wood or the rocks. Works absolutely fine. As the cotton begins to dissolve, generally the plants are attached.
Yeah.
So that works just
I've
fine.
seen, who else is it? Yeah, Yuri that works at Tropica. He uses, I don't know why he goes down this, but he uses cigarette filters. You know, the sponge, the filter inside that, he breaks that down. Don't know why, but I don't know if that's better than just cotton wool or not, but
I think it's something to do with how hard it sets.
Must be.
Rubber bands are another option. Just don't tighten it too much, or it'll cut the rhizome and basically kill the plant. But if you have it loose enough, it grows just fine. Again, as it begins to break up, you've got to be very careful because you don't want your fish eating it. But as that begins to break up, you can remove them quite easily. And then fishing line is another one. Again, I don't like it because my fingers don't do small things. Fishing line works really well. Yep.
Black thread, but again, it's too fiddly.
Yeah, I'm a glue guy all the way.
So I was always thread until I met George Farmer, and he was showing, he was doing a demonstration, and he just used super glue, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "You can use super glue, really?" I never thought. I mean, I knew it was safe, but I'd never put the two in the same world. I'm like, from that point on, I've always used super glue. It's quick. It's easy.
Be careful when you're using super glue because it does set white underwater. So if you're a bit messy with it, you'll have white spots of stuff everywhere. But again, for me, I'm down for the glue, and it doesn't have to be that flourish glue. A little bit counterintuitive because clearly I sell it, but any super glue normally works. Just make sure it's gel as opposed to liquid.
You don't need a lot either, and if you're working with a nice bit of wood, when you're putting anubias, aim to put the glue in like a crevice and kind of work it in. That way you're less chance of it actually being on show.
A method I've been using recently is trying to find crevices in wood and rocks and just opening it up a little bit, dropping it in and letting it close off a little bit. It doesn't work all the time because sometimes you can't find the spots you want, but that's one I have
get a power drill and just make your own plugs.
Yep. So coral plugs would probably work. Drill a hole, attach it to your coral plug, stick it in.
Oh, yeah, you could do that as well, yeah.
Didn't really think of that, So there's an option there. Pretty much that's it when it comes to attaching. It's pretty easy. Straight or curved or pointed.
Yeah, I think it depends. I like using curved when I'm planting into the substrate.
Yeah.
Because you put them down at the angle, and then when you're pulling them out, it's easier to pull out through the substrate at the angle. I don't have any.
It's funny because I prefer the pointed straight ones.
Really?
Yeah.
It's maybe just me. I've got a different technique, but I've always it's less. I have more success at the plant staying in the substrate when I use the curved ones.
Yeah. I think the substrate itself has a lot to do with it as well. Like I was planting into the Monado the other day, and it was a real struggle for a little while, and then I just sort of twinkled my fingers through it, broke up a bit of the air pockets, then it was fine. So sometimes it depends on the substrate. And that goes with scissors as well. For the best part, I actually prefer curved scissors than the straight scissors. I think they work really well for stem plants and for getting a little bit deeper down onto Echinodoris over the straight ones. So but if I'm cutting like rhizomes, I prefer to use the straight scissors. So different applications for different things, I suppose.
I know.
Yeah,
and of course.
And I guess the other body of plants that we haven't spoken about is mosses. I'm not a giant fan of mosses, which is probably why we don't talk about it, and I don't talk about them too often. So we've got Java moss, Christmas moss, and peacock moss are the main ones, and Riccia that we mainly get here. We normally have a pretty good supply of Java moss. I'm not a massive fan of it in aquascaping. I think it gets all weedy and gross really quickly.
Yeah.
I think the peacock and Christmas moss are a far better option when it comes to that if you're wanting to design a tank layout. But I think Java moss is far and supreme for when it comes to like breeding projects and just having a moss sort of floating around the bottom of your tank sort of scenario. So, yeah, attaching them is pretty similar. Small pieces, a little bit of dab of glue, and away you go. Or you can attach them to little wire plates and let them grow through a little bit and put them through. So, yeah, but moss isn't something that I tend to talk about too much because it's not a plant that I enjoy. I find particularly Java moss more of a pain than a pleasure. So, yeah.
What about moss balls?
The more Mimo, or what the heck they're called?
Marimo.
Yeah, they're not legal here.
Oh, they're not?
No. They were bought in maybe 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer. And rumor has it whoever bought them in had their full fish room destroyed. So,
wow.
Yeah, not allowed here. They'll do some bad things to our ecosystem. So, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I can grow most plants into a jungle, but mosses also fade away with me. Unless they're in a tank just by themselves doing their own thing. Mosses and me don't really mix too much, so that's, yeah.
Yeah, moss is one, if you try and grow it, it'll fail. If you ignore it, it's like wildfire. I've not got any moss any more than there. But I've got it upstairs, and I put a little clump inside a plastic Groot. You know, the I Am Groot model thing. I put it in his head in my daughter's tank, and it grew and grew, and now it's like twice the size of him.
Cool.
I keep meaning to trim it back, but I know once I trim that, all that's just going to go.
Yeah. And there'll be some aquascapers out there that are laughing at us going, you can't grow moss. It's really simple, but it is what it is. The reality is I think that most people struggle a little bit with moss. That's my genuine belief. And it is probably something quite as simple as a little bit of extra fertilizer in the water for them to take it on, or
I think lighting is the trick.
Or
something to do with lighting.
Yeah, there'll be something little that's really easy to make them work, but it's just easier not to, pretty much. So
yeah.
No one's an ornament guy.
No, it's not my aquarium, Cam. It's not my aquarium. It is my daughter's aquarium. You've met my daughter on that live I did. She likes it, so therefore it stays.
As long as she likes it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And if the truth be told, I do like it. So there.
Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty much what we've got as far as plants go, and a few options there. So I hope this has helped a few people. And you got a few.
I think, to help with the new tropical plants that you've brought over, I'll get a blog put together just to kind of break down a bit more detail about it, because my brain kind of fried when you asked me what they were. Maybe better if I write it down and share it.
That'll cool. Yeah, that'd be great. I know you work a lot better when it comes to writing words than speaking words. So
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Definitely.
Okay, everybody. Yeah, well, we will head through. I hope you have a really good day. Shop is open from 11 till 4:30 today and 10 till 3 tomorrow. So if you're in the Nelson region, pop on in, come to say g'day, pick up some of these awesome 1-2 grow pots. And there's also a few other bits and pieces floating around the shop at the moment that I haven't spoken about today. So I'm sure you'll find something good if you pop on them.
Okay.
On the note, next Sunday, not this Sunday. I'm glad someone reminded me. So Mother's Day is next Sunday. Don't forget it, people, because I clearly just forgot till that moment. All right, everybody. Have a good one, Tim.
Have a good weekend, guys. Take care. Bye, Cam. Bye.